Yo, what's up guys? This is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Welcome back to the channel. Many thanks to all of you who have supported me on Patreon. If you want access to exclusive and complete versions of the stories, join me on Patreon. I already have dozens of stories available there. You can even send fanfic requests. The link is in the description. Enjoy the video. Peace. DanMachi. The Blade God of Hephaestus Familia. 1 BG. Chapter 1 The Center of the World. Orario. 1212. Chapter 1 The Center of the World. Orario. Next. Hey kid, you can already see it. Through this causeway you'll find Orario. The coachman's call cheered up the young man in the carriage. The young man with black hair and black eyes poked his head out of the hood and looked towards the direction of the carriage. A magnificent city comes into view. Labyrinth City Orario. Is it finally here? After 5 months of journey we finally arrived here. The city wall is so high. But even higher than that is the tall white tower known as the Tower of Babel. Compared to reading the original work, seeing it with your own eyes is simply shocking. Can't see the top at all. Uncle, don't call me kid, my name is Roy. The young man corrected the issue of address for many times with a look of helplessness on his face. Ha ha ha, it's too difficult to pronounce your name, the coachman said with a smile, obviously intending to get away with it. Roy did not continue to struggle this time because his attention was attracted by the road on which the carriage was traveling. As this Fenyana causeway, you were really knowledgeable in an inexplicable way. You were so ignorant in terms of common sense. You were really a weirdo. The coachman has been traveling with Roy for more than a month and has learned a lot about him. He didn't understand Roy's mood at the moment. At the scene, Roy sincerely lamented the power of ancient heroes. This causeway was once a mountain. Long before the time of gods and dependents, this land was filled with monsters. The only ones who can compete with them are the heroes of ancient times. Among them the little human hero Finn made a huge contribution. The blow he fired with the magic spear not only penetrated the 100-eyed giant Balur but also penetrated the mountain, leaving a scar on the earth and forming a canyon. And even after thousands of years this canyon still exists here and has become a scenery outside the city of Orario. This is how Fenyana Causeway came to be. What really happened in the past has now become a myth. But Roy knew that those were all true. More than 2,000 years ago, in the distant past, before this magnificent city Orario existed, there was a great war between heroes and underground monsters. It was a battle that decided the fate of the world. Climbing here is like a pilgrimage to a holy land for him. It has been a year since he came to this world and now he has finally arrived at the center of this world. The carriage arrived at the entrance of the Labyrinth City. Roy raised his head. When he looked at it from a distance he thought the city wall was very high, but when he reached his feet he realized that he had misjudged it. However, considering that this circle of walls was built to prevent monsters from escaping from the underground, it is not difficult to understand why it was built in such an exaggerated manner. After passing the inspection, Roy finally entered this maze city as he wished. The change of scene made him feel as if he had entered the world of the game. Most of the people walking on the road are adventurers, so many people carry weapons with them. There are orcs carrying great swords. There is a magician with a staff. There are swordsmen with swords hanging from their waists. Adventurers of different races, identities and genders naturally coexist here. In this Orario there are only strong and weak, no nobility and lowliness, no nobility, only gods and mortals. The gods bestow favors on the favored people, establish dependent families and live together with the people. Joining a clan is very important for those who want to become adventurers. If you want to be an adventurer and explore the dungeon, there are a few necessities. 1. Favor. Get the favor of the gods, become an adventurer and unlock abilities, magic skills, etc. Only in this way can you have the power to move forward in the maze. 2. Companions. The underground maze is very dangerous, and the deeper you go the more perilous it becomes, and near-death situations are commonplace. In order to reduce risks and gain greater benefits, it is necessary to explore in a team. The underground labyrinth is a no-care zone and an amplifier of the dark side of people's hearts, so most people only team up with companions within their families. There are many necessities, but these 2 points are especially important. If you join a powerful family you will get more help and protection, but the requirements for recruiting people from a powerful family are also very high. The threshold for weak dependent families will be much lower and they will not receive much help and resources. After joining they will have to work hard on their own. They even had to spend money to help the dependents maintain operations. Roy is not confused on this point. He has decided to join the Hephaestus Familia. Hephaestus, the divine craftsman of heaven. Forge god. She is a goddess with a good personality and reasonableness. The Hephaestus Familia she leads is a production-oriented familia composed of experts who are proficient in blacksmithing. It is the top large-scale familia in the city. It's a good fit for him to use his abilities. Chapter 2 Shallow Attack. 2/212. Chapter 2 Shallow Attack. Roy nervously held the handle of the knife hanging on his waist. Then it's time to say goodbye. The coachman uncle sent him to the Adventurers Guild and said goodbye to him. Roy smiled and said, "There is no such thing as a banquet in the world. See you again if we are destined." The two shook hands firmly and then Roy watched the driver leave. Roy pushed open the door of the Adventurers Guild and took a few steps inside to avoid blocking the door. Then he quickly looked around the layout here and then went straight to the counter. "Hello." The female guild employee at the counter heard someone saying hello and raised her head. She looks 26 or 7 years old and has a good image. And when she raised her head and saw Roy, her eyes suddenly opened a little wider and even glowed faintly. Well, what a handsome young man. He has black hair and black eyes and he has a sense of mystery. The linen cloak that looks like a beggar on ordinary people will make people think that he is a dashing bard. You have something to do. No, is there anything I can do to help you?" The guild lady smiled like a flower. Roy was surprised by this excellent service attitude. He also smiled kindly. The guild lady felt dizzy. Then he said, "I just came to Orario today, so I want to join a family." Join the familia. The guild lady was startled. When it came to serious matters like work, she quickly stopped being a nymphomaniac and began to discuss things conscientiously. Mr. Roy, right? Yes. Well, what kind of family do you want to join?" "Hephaestus Familia." The guild lady said in astonishment, "But that family basically only recruits blacksmiths." She looked at the beautiful young man in front of her and couldn't relate to the blacksmith in her mind. "I know, no problem, I'm a blacksmith," Roy said as he took off the knife from his waist and handed it to the other party with both hands. "Look, this is the knife I made called Chianda." The guild lady took the knife in a daze. She still couldn't believe it. So she held the handle of the knife and pulled it hard and the blade was released from the scabbard. This is. The guild lady was attracted by the beautiful blade in front of her. Although she didn't know what a sword return meant, the arc was indeed beautiful. The blade, polished like a water mirror, reflected her face. On the blade pattern in the shape of a mountain bird feather is extremely gorgeous. Such a beautiful blade, equipment and handle including the scabbard are all very simple. What a beautiful knife, it's like a work of art. At this time many adventurers in the guild saw this scene and came over one after another. Some people who heard the entire conversation told what had just happened and the news spread to the onlookers in an instant. "Is that a sword from the Far East?" "Ah, that's right. I've seen Cyclops with the same style of weapons. So thin, is he really a blacksmith? It couldn't be something he got from somewhere else." The scene suddenly became noisy due to a lot of discussion. Roy ignored the movement behind him, just looked at the guild lady and asked, "Can you introduce me to her?" The Adventurers Guild is not like in the game. It does not deal with the personnel of the dependents but only manages the dependents in the city. The personnel transfer of the dependent clan is completely autonomous. Roy had just arrived and didn't know how to join the Hephaestus Familia, so she came to the guild. In addition to managing the familia, it would also receive new adventurers and volunteers. Now Roy, as a volunteer, has the intention to join the family and has taken action. "Yes, it's okay. Even if you don't prove it to me, it doesn't matter. After all, the reviewer is from the Familia clan." She used the same movement as Roy to return the knife with both hands. Roy took the knife and inserted it along the belt again at his waist. Then the guild lady took out another card. According to her explanation, the map printed on it is a road guide. If you match the road signs, you can find the people of the Hephaestus Familia. In addition, this can also be regarded as a recommendation from the guild. "Thank you." "No, you're welcome." The guild lady blushed and said shyly. At this moment a man as strong as a bear pushed aside the onlookers and stepped forward, his words full of provocation. "Can that kind of knife really be used for fighting?" He stepped forward and came to Roy. Condescending. "It's just to show off." If you can join the Hephaestus Familia like this, then who will dare to buy weapons from the Hephaestus weapon shop in the future? Ha ha ha. Roy glanced at him. His expression remained unchanged and he said expressionlessly, 3 rate lines a passerby like you actually survived to this day by being serious instead of mass producing directly from the factory. I shocked by this. A. Chapter 3 Adi Pharma. 3 212ths. Chapter 3 Adi Pharma. When the onlookers heard his words, their expressions became strange. An idea popped up in my mind at the same time. This young man, completely opposite to his handsome appearance, has a sharp tongue. The Shangzhuang man was stunned for a moment when he was told this, and then his eyes immediately widened as if they were about to fall out. He breathed out through his nostrils, held the sword behind his back with his right hand and raised it high while at the same time secretly observing the reaction of the guild lady. Roy noticed this and felt helpless. It turns out that he came here specifically to provoke me out of boredom and jealousy. This guy is surprisingly innocent. But also silly. Didn't he think about what he would do if he was slapped in the face in this situation? You must know that in many works, after being slapped in the face once, there is no possibility of appearing again. Boy, watch out. This is called a weapon. What you have is just a toothpick. The words have not yet fallen. A flash of white light suddenly flashed in front of the man's eyes. It's a slash. But because it was too fast, he could only feel the sharpness of the slash but could not see the blade clearly. Bang! The broad blade fell to the ground. The man didn't realize what happened at this time, but when he felt his hand suddenly become lighter, he moved his hand in front of him and looked at the big sword in his hand. No, it should be called broken sword now. At this time less than a third of the 2-meter-long sword remained. The missing parts become smooth sections. It's like it's been cropped. Roy slowly put the sword in his hand into the scabbard and said calmly, "Are you satisfied now? If you don't want to get hurt, don't pester me again." After that he walked around the strong man and walked towards the outside of the guild. But before he could leave, the strong man dropped the broken sword in his hand, raised a bench from behind with an angry look and swung it hard at Roy's back. A cold light flashed in Roy's eyes. His hand had already been placed on the handle of Qian Da's knife. With just one knife he could cut the man in half, but the blade would be stained with the blood of the fish, which made him feel a little sorry for the knife. The moment he turned around, Roy's hand that was about to draw the sword paused. Because a blue figure suddenly appeared in front of him and raised his hand to catch the bench that the man had swung down. The voice of the intruder sounded at this time. "A sneak attack is a shameful act for adventurers. Please stop and accept the guild's judgment." Roy looked at the back of the person in front of him. This person has short gray hair, but his voice is that of a girl. He is wearing blue clothes. He looks a bit like a knight, but he has been modified to a certain extent according to the physical characteristics of a girl. His straight legs are wrapped in black stockings. The gray-haired girl's generous move made Roy stop drawing the sword. He also gave up the idea of killing people. The man who was stopped became angry and yelled, "Don't get in the way." Just when he was about to continue his mischief, his companions suddenly rushed out from the crowd and 4 or 5 people grabbed the angry man together. The gray-haired girl was also a little confused looking at the situation happening in front of her. "Idiot, stop it. She is Vyase LV2 senior adventurer and the sister of the leader of the Ganesha Familia." His companion's words immediately woke the man up. Ganesha family, LV2, the sister of the leader of the family clan. Even any of them are beyond his reach. Without any hesitation the man apologized decisively. "Hug, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have provoked others and made mischief in the guild." When the gray-haired girl saw him apologizing, she also put away her stern expression and instead showed a cute smile. "It's good to know that you were wrong. Don't do it again next time." "Yes, thank you for your magnanimity." The group of people quickly fled the scene. Seeing that the matter was over, Roy glanced at the gray-haired girl, nodded to her and then turned and left. What he didn't expect was that not long after he walked out of the guild, the girl actually caught up with him again. "Wait, the black-haired swordsman." The girl ran up to him, clenching her fists, her eyes shining, and her tone of voice was filled with excitement. "The swordsmanship you just performed was so wonderful. Although that man is only level 1, you are so strong before you receive the favor. It's incredible." Facing the praise from the girl in front of him, Roy said modestly, "Thank you, but it's not such a great skill. I'm far from mature enough." "It's really amazing. Oh, by the way, I am Adi Pharma from the Ganesha family. Are you willing to join our family? The gray-haired girl excitedly promoted her family members, her blue eyes shining slightly. Chapter 4 Forging the Soul. 4212. Chapter 4 Forging the Soul. The girl called herself Adi, which made Roy's mind jump to a picture. In the picture, in order to protect the child, the girl in front of her was plotted by the dark faction and was blown up to death by using a bomb tied to the child. She is still alive and has not been upgraded to level 3, which means that the absolute evil plan has not yet started. Hello Adi, I am Roy. Wang Wangyu. It's Roy. Haha, I'm sorry, am I too stupid? Adi scratched his head and said embarrassedly. Roy looked at her, raising the corners of his mouth slightly. But he still rejected her. Sorry, I have decided to join the Hephaestus Familia. Thank you for inviting me. I am honored. This is not a lie. Ganesha family. One of the few S-class familia in Orario. Based on the size and strength of the familia, the guild divides the familia into 10 levels from S level to I level, with S being the highest and I being the lowest. Upgrading the family members requires completing difficult tasks and is not an easy matter. There are only a handful of S-class familias even among Orario. There is no doubt about the strength. When Adi heard what he said, her excitement suddenly faded. That's right, by the way, you said you were a blacksmith. A blacksmith. Yes, you made this very powerful knife. In that case, can you please help me create an exclusive weapon? Adi, who had been lost for less than 2 seconds, became energetic again. Looking at her pure and honest eyes, Roy was silent for half a second and then replied, of course, I'm happy to. Great. Adi raised her hands happily. Buddha my knife is not an ordinary weapon. It is connected to your destiny and needs to be forged with your soul. Roy's eyes were serious, not joking at all. Soul. Adi tilted his head confused. Roy did not continue to explain but said, also the fees I charge are not low. If you want my knife, be prepared to come to me with 50 million valis. Although OGI met his requirements for a Zanpakutō wielder, one size fits all. A good impression and a good relationship are two different things. He now has less than 10,000 valis left in his hands. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is poor. 50 million valis was the price he offered to jump out of the building. Originally he planned to sell it for 500 million. 50 million valis. Adi was a little surprised by the amount. But it was just surprise. As a star member of the Ganesha Familia and the sister of Shakti Pharma, the leader of the Familia, spending 50 million ferris to buy a weapon is not too much. This is the benefit of the strong family. I understand. It just so happens that I haven't prepared a special weapon since I upgraded to LV2. I think it would be great if I could let you, Roy, build it. She saw with her own eyes the sharpness and beautiful shape of the cutting sword. So I have already recognized Roy's skills in my heart. Although it seems strange to me, it would be better if you don't trust people so easily. Roy felt that this girl was too upright. While in the guild, some people questioned whether the weapon really came from him. He is not angry. Because it's a legitimate question. Blacksmithing is not a joke but a profound knowledge that requires years of practice to improve one's skills. It is very common for young blacksmiths not to be trusted. I believe Roy. After all, you are just like the wandering swordsman in the story books I have read. Ah no, please forget what I just said. Wandering swordsman. Story book. Ah, correct. At this moment Roy suddenly recalled a hobby of the girl in front of him. That is to like heroic stories. Especially the Argonauts. If people who can relate to love in anything are called love brains, then this girl is definitely a hero brain. Just for this reason, Roy shook his head in amusement, and while turning to leave he waved his hand to the girl to say goodbye. After bidding farewell to Adi, he followed the instructions and came to a shop run by the Hephaestus family. This is a branch. Before he entered the store he saw quite luxurious weapons on display racks. Just looking at the materials of these weapons you can tell that the materials used are definitely very precious and the luster and texture are extraordinary. However, these are not really advanced weapons, most of them are only at the 3rd level. To describe it in game terms, it would probably be a purple outfit. There are 2 more rare and powerful levels above. Chapter 5 Inches Forging God, Hephaestus. 5212. Chapter 5 Inches Forging God, Hephaestus. Open the weapon shop door. Roy walked in. Hearing the bell ringing on the door, a girl in uniform immediately reacted and stepped forward to greet her. Hello, welcome to the weapon shop of the Hephaestus Familia. Roy looked at the other party and said straight to the point, hello, I want to join the Hephaestus Familia. I don't know how to take the assessment. When the clerk girl heard his words, her face suddenly showed the same expression as the lady from the guild. Are you saying you want to join the Hephaestus Familia? Roy nodded decisively and explained, yes, I am a blacksmith. His voice reached the interior of the store. He was heard by a beauty with fiery red hair dressed in men's clothing. She raised her flaming eyes, showed an interested expression and walked out. You said you want to join the Hephaestus Familia? The red-haired woman asked as soon as she appeared. Look for the sound. Roy saw the figure as bright as flames and the sacred aura made him a little distracted. Although it was just a glance, he understood immediately. This is a god. Moreover, the eyeband covering the right eye as well as the fiery red hair and eyes. These characteristics are also quite rare among goddesses. There's no way it's wrong. This is. Roy put one hand on his chest and leaned forward slightly. Goddess of forging god Hephaestus, allow me to introduce myself. I am Roy. In order to become a member of your family, I traveled across half of the continent to come here. I hope you can accept me. Facing his directness, Hephaestus looked him up and down with a smile. Her eyes first stayed on his face for a moment and then moved to the knife on his waist. As a forging god, she could see things at a glance that ordinary people couldn't. So she said, is that child your work? Can you let me take a look? Roy took the knife out of its scabbard and handed it to her. Hephaestus took it and examined it. After a moment she asked with some surprise, although I just guessed based on intuition, is this knife of yours not finished yet? Roy's eyes changed slightly. He is worthy of being the god of forging, the divine craftsman of the heavens and the strongest blacksmith in the world. It's obvious at a glance that Asada isn't exactly a Zanpakuto. Currently he has not yet truly awakened the ability to forge a Zanpakuto, so he can only forge shallow attacks. But as long as he gets a favor and unleashes his potential, he can then forge a real Zanpakuto. Yes, very impressive. Don't dare to take it seriously. Hephaestus felt like she might have found a treasure. How old are you this year? 15. Very young. ? Roy didn't quite understand what Hephaestus meant by saying this. Roy Hephaestus stared at him for a moment, then finally extended her hand. Welcome to join my family. From today on you are my child. As your main god you can talk to me about any worries or difficulties you have. The family is the home shared by the Lord God and his people and is close to the family. But the Familia clan is still basically a force. Since it is a force, then interests are the key to maintaining the operation of the dependent clan. Enough money is needed to ensure strongholds, supplies, activity funds, etc. Then the members of the family must have their own value. Roy shows value. Maybe it's a little impersonal to say this, but right now he's just a rough diamond. Whether it's a gem or not depends on how high his potential is. No matter how much mortals practice their skills, only a few can reach a state where they can marvel at the gods. If you want to become a gem, you need to show enough quality after receiving a favor. What the gods value more is the potential of the people in the lower world. For them this is like opening a blind box, and favor is the key needed to open the blind box. In the secret room, Hephaestus smeared her divine blood on Roy's back. As the blood changed, the obscure divine inscriptions were arranged into special shapes. Hephaestus's heraldic brand is completed. In this way you are my people. Hephaestus said softly. Roy can feel the tenderness, seriousness, care and other complex emotions contained in this sentence. He couldn't help but feel like he was being favored. At the same time he also felt the awakening of a certain ability in his body the moment he accepted the favor. Wait, this is it. Hephaestus suddenly made a surprised sound. She stared closely at the ability value panel that appeared behind Roy. Her eyes widened a lot and she kept glancing back and forth. Hey, this is not something that can be explained by talent or anything like that, haha. Hephaestus was so surprised by what she saw that she couldn't help but laugh. She even scratched her hair trying to confirm whether she was awake enough now. Not just magic. There are even skills. This is more than just a gem. What a treasure. Chapter 6 Magic and Skills. 6/212. Chapter 6 Magic and Skills. Name: Roy. Level LV1. Ability value: Strength. I0 a durability. I0 a dexterity. I0 agility, I0 a magic power, I0. Magic, Hado, attack magic, quick attack magic, wide area attack magic. You can use tunnels numbered 1 to 99. Bakudo, suppress magic, defensive magic, boundary magic, binding paths numbered 1 to 99 can be used. Kido, healing magic, regeneration magic, purification magic, can use return channel. Skill, soul blade Zanpakuto, can make Zanpakutō. You can name your Zanpakutō. A certain level of proficiency can be gained when the Zanpakutō achieves great deeds. Looking at the luxurious ability value panel in front of me, which is not like a LV1 new adventurer at all, mainly in terms of magic and skills, even Hephaestus, who has lived for hundreds of millions of years, feels that he has not seen her for a long time. 3 unseen magics directly cover attack, defense and recovery, just like 9 hell. There is also a production skill which is also unheard of. What is a Zanpakutō? Is it a weapon similar to a magic sword? Hephaestus was confused. Having 3 magic slots is outrageous enough. It can be said that as long as the performance of these magic is not particularly crotch-stretching, Roy will almost certainly be able to achieve something. It's even a pity to be a blacksmith. Hephaestus actually became a little worried at this time, worried about whether she could bring out Roy's full potential. Such outstanding children will definitely be trained intensively in exploration-oriented families like Loki Familia. With a little training they may become famous star adventurers in just a few years. The Hephaestus Familia is a production-based family. The members of the family focus on forging and have not made much achievements in dungeon exploration. They may not be able to satisfy this child. Roy saw that the goddess was silent for a long time, so he asked tentatively, "God, what's wrong with you?" Hephaestus was brought back to her thoughts. "Nothing, I will convert your ability value into common language and print it out now." "Thank you, God." Hephaestus used paper to faithfully print the entire ability value on Roy's back. At the same time he explained, "This is the most intuitive manifestation of God's favor. Through the power of God, the potential of children in the lower world is brought out and given the opportunity to grow. Have you seen these numerical numbers? These are your ability values," Hephaestus said, pointing to the content on the paper. "Although it is still 0 and the level is only LV1, your weapon has been awakened. After that you can upgrade and become stronger as long as you fill it with water. Water is proficiency which can be gained through adventure and grown in life. The proficiency gained will be hidden in your body. At this time you need to update your ability values to grow. Only the main god of the dependent clan can update the ability value. You will understand this after you experience it yourself." Speaking of this, Hephaestus' tone changed and she warned very seriously, "After confirming the ability value, it is best to destroy the paper. For adventurers, magic and skills are the same as trump cards. If is not leaked, then absolutely not. Do you understand?" Seeing her solemnly emphasizing this point, Roy nodded cooperatively to express his understanding. After that, Hephaestus seemed to be unable to let him go and stressed twice more before letting him go. "Really, you children from the lower world always bring us surprises. Regardless of magic, I have never seen this skill before, so I can't give you any advice. Please spend time trying it in the future." Roy was very grateful after listening to the goddess' detailed explanation. During this period he also confirmed his ability. Breaking the Tao, binding the Tao and returning to the Tao, none of these exceeded his expectations. Killing fists and walking away ghosts. Among the 4 basic abilities of the Shinigami, Kido is the only one that meets the definition of magic. The rest of the slashing techniques by Da and Shunpo can only be regarded as skills. The Soul Blade skill has some surprises. Roy, who thought that being able to make a Zanpakutō would be enough, was quite surprised when he saw that he could improve his proficiency through the great achievements he had achieved with the Zanpakutō. Even though White Rabbit upgrades so quickly, it would be difficult for an average adventurer to reach level 4 in their lifetime, or even level 3. Otherwise level 2 would not be called an advanced adventurer. As the first and last hero, favored by the world, Bell Crane is the undoubted king of cheats and backgrounds. But with this skill he seems to have joined the group of people he once hated the most. As long as he sells enough Zanpakutō, isn't it equivalent to just hanging up and gaining experience? What are you going to do next? Faced with the goddess's inquiry, Roy did not hesitate and gave a predetermined answer. "I am ready to enter the dungeon." Chapter 7, Heading to the Dungeon. 7/212. Chapter 7 Heading to the Dungeon. Well, although this child has a somewhat deep mind and some confusing thoughts, he does indeed have a longing for adventure. As soon as I became an adventurer I couldn't wait to enter the dungeon. Hephaestus smiled and said, then go and experience it, but you must remember that when entering the dungeon for the first time never go deeper than the 3rd level. The goddess emphasized this point with a heavy tone. Roy agreed to her. Originally he didn't intend to go too deep. The monsters in the 1st to 3rd levels are not very strong and can be defeated by a farmer wielding a tool alone. So far the death probability for new adventurers exploring the first 3 floors is infinitely close to 0. And because the floors are higher, there are many adventurers coming and going. Even if you encounter danger you can escape as long as you call for help. It will just lose some face. Therefore it is not worth having someone specifically lead you. For us blacksmiths, if we want to produce higher level works, it is necessary to improve our levels, such as acquiring development abilities. Hephaestus suggested to Roy, in this area of AA knowledge, rather than looking for a blacksmith, I recommend going to the guild to learn from a consultant who is responsible for you. Roy, I understand. Although he has some understanding of developing abilities, he still needs to study it carefully. Things in reality must be based on reality. The information he knows includes: one of the conditions for the development of abilities is to increase the level. Adventurers have the opportunity to develop additional abilities every time they level up. Actions taken before leveling up will affect the chance of gaining development abilities. Development capabilities are mostly additional strengthening of a certain professional ability. For example, forging. Whether you have this development ability can even directly judge the ability of a blacksmith. The leader of the Hephaestus Familia's Tsubaki co-brand is a blacksmith. His level later reached level 5. Being above the level of ordinary blacksmiths is also one of the hard conditions for her to become the city's #1 blacksmith. Although Roy calls himself a blacksmith, he is also a god of death. Needless to say, he attaches great importance to strength. He wants to become the sword god of this world. Speaking of dungeons, as early as ancient times the labyrinth city Orario did not yet exist. There was once a bottomless abyss of unknown depth. Viewed from above it looked like a hole in the earth. This large hole is located at the end of the continent. Endless monsters pour out of it, burning, killing, looting and reproducing on the ground, causing the destruction of all living beings. Until the ancient heroes came to crusade, walls and towns were built on this war front, which was the predecessor of Orario. Hundreds of years later the gods in the heavens finally reached a consensus through an agreement. They sealed their divine power and descended from the sky. They no longer stayed in the unchanging heaven but chose to live with the people of the lower world. The great god Oranos used his divine power to suppress the big hole, making it impossible for the monster to leave the floor where he was, and also made it impossible for the monster to come to the ground again. Because when the gods went down to the next world they smashed the Tower of Babel. So he ordered the legendary craftsman Daedalus to trim a new Tower of Babel, or Babel 2.0, which is the white tower that towers into the sky today. In this way the Tower of Babel became the lid of the underground city. Since then the age of heroes has completely ended and the age of gods and dependence has arrived. Following Hephaestus' instructions, Roy received the newbie gift pack from the family's supplies. An iron dagger, a pair of gloves, a pair of boots and some scattered parts. He looked through it and couldn't find Hephaestus's trademark on the equipment. It seems that these things should be made by members of the family during their training. Roy doesn't dislike it. Seriously, arm yourself. Even if the opponent's ability is not strong, he is still an enemy with murderous intent. If given the opportunity, the opponent will launch a fatal attack without mercy, then this can be called a battle, not a joke. After changing his outfit, Roy immediately looked like an adventurer. A gray-brown cloak is draped around his body with 2 weapons, a shallow sword and an iron sword hanging on his waist. There is also a prop bag hanging on his back and his joints are equipped with protective gear. Although it is not a good product, this set of equipment is already beyond the reach of most new adventurers. When Bel the Chosen Son first became an adventurer, he even borrowed equipment from the guild because the Hephaestus Familia was too poor to give him any material support. Compared with the garbage equipment prepared by the guild, the rags gathering dust in the Hephaestus Familia's warehouse are several notches better than that. Ready to prepare, Roy came to the Tower of Babel with some excitement. Today is his memorable first adventure. Target the 3rd level, let's go. Chapter 8 The Upper Level and the Ghost Path. 8/212. Chapter 8 The Upper Level and the Ghost Path. Inside the Tower of Babel. Roy moves along the spiral staircase. Because it is already afternoon, there are far more people coming out of the maze than entering. Many people have traces of the battle on their bodies. Among them there are also many people who are lucky. When fighting monsters, it is inevitable to get injured occasionally, so you need to form a team. Many times just one more reliable companion can make a situation that cannot be solved alone become easier. Basement 1. This is not the inside of the maze. The journey up to here is an area called the Path of Beginning. During the move, Roy took the Novice Adventurer's manual issued by the guild and read it carefully. Come to the entrance of the maze. Roy felt the cool air coming from the ground. Even though they were only separated by a door, he felt like he was in a different world. First level. Minutes passed. Roy walked in the underground city, concentrating and alert to all the movements around him. In terms of terrain, the first level is somewhat like a cave. The walls of the cave are inlaid with many luminous ores which illuminate the environment and provide good visibility. According to the experience of adventurers, dungeons can be roughly divided into 4 levels. Upper level 1 to 12. Middle level 13 to 24. Lower level 25 to 36. Deep floors 37 to 37 below. The structure of the underground city is conical and the area becomes wider as you go downwards. With the ability of a LV1 adventurer, the only thing that can be conquered is the upper level. Among them, the ability value indicators of monsters on levels 1 to 4 compared to adventurers are from I to H. What a detailed strategy. The guild has really put a lot of effort into it. What Roy, who was sighing, didn't know was that it was quite rare for adventurers to read this kind of thing seriously. Quack. Coming to a corner, Roy was startled by a strange cry. He looked around the corner. It was dark there. The sound came from inside. Roy pulled out the iron sword from his waist and raised the fingers of his left hand. So, just let me try it. Call. Destroy yourself. Londanini's black dog will be completely burned at one glance. Cut your own throat. He whispered the chant. The 9th strike of Binding Dao. The fully chanted ghost path was released at this moment. Red light shot into the darkness and then there was a panicked roar. Roy rushed forward quickly. After passing the corner, I saw the monster bound by the red light. Is this a goblin? Before he had time to think more, the sword in his hand was already swinging. The sword blade cut into the goblin's neck and a slight choking sensation was transmitted to Roy through his hands. One sword kills the head. The goblin's head was severed and the body fell to the ground. During the 5-month journey he had experienced battles and encountered goblins, but there was a huge difference in strength between the monsters on the ground and those in the dungeon. So he used the fully chanted Binding Dao as soon as he came up. It seems like it's a bit of a fuss. Roy reflected for a moment. After all, he has just received the favor and all his abilities are at their lowest. The magical attribute affects the quality and quantity of his spiritual pressure. Through the 9 attacks of Binding Dao just now, he estimated his own limit. When the state is full, you should be able to release Ghost Path 3 times with full power. Moreover, the only ghost paths he can use now are those up to No. 9. Bang. The goblin's body collapsed and turned into ashes. There was only one crystal with magic flowing in its place which fell to the ground. Roy picked up the crystal and looked at it in front of his eyes. Is this the magic stone? He was a little amazed. In the dungeon, after the monster dies, the body will disappear, be absorbed by the dungeon and then be reborn, which is the death and refreshment of the monster. After the monster dies, the magic stone inside the body will fall out. At the same time, there is a certain probability that dropped items will be left behind. In the case of goblins, the dropped items are goblin teeth. The probability of dropping items is very small, but the magic stone will explode as long as it is not destroyed. Monster magic stones are the core source of income for adventurers. Guilds will purchase magic stones and process them into other props such as magic stone lamps used for lighting in cities. Putting away the magic stone in his hand, which was about the same size as a gold coin, Roy continued to move. Soon he met another goblin. This time he didn't hide. So the goblin immediately discovered him and rushed forward with a loud shout. Roy tried to use Shunpo, directly avoiding the goblin's attack and going around behind it. The goblin even kept moving forward. Too slow. Before it could react, its back was pierced by Roy's sword. Standing behind the goblin, Roy turned the hilt of the sword and took some effort to pull out the blade. Blood arrows shot out instantly. As that feeling of bone just now. Roy looked at the blade of the iron sword and found that there were actually several curled edges which should have been caused by the goblin's sternum getting stuck. Chapter 9. Killing the Ghost with Fists. 9/212. Chapter 9. Killing the Ghost with Fists. It's a matter of angle. Speaking of which, I heard somewhere that there are many bones in the human body that can cause damage to the edge of a sword. Such as the sternum and skull. Therefore, if you are attacking the heart, you can aim from below the chest or from below the throat close to the collarbone. This angle will not touch the bone and can avoid damage to the blade. In other words, against goblins, the powerful piercing attack just now has obviously overflowed its power. Roy reflected on himself and sorted out the problems in the battle. As long as these problems can be improved in the next battle, the experience can be transformed into an improvement in strength. Becoming stronger is definitely more than just the stacking of values. The third encounter with the monster. Still a goblin. Roy tried to deal with it with white hits. The goblin's claws and teeth were very sharp. He retracted his left arm, his eyes fell on the goblin, and he confirmed the position of its center of gravity through its movements. The goblin made an unpleasant cry and clawed at Roy's face with its sharp claws. Roy leaned forward, avoiding the claws while diving forward, and at the same time he arched his right arm and shot out an inch of force towards the lower part of the goblin's forearm. Bang! The goblin's attacking arm was bounced away while its center of gravity tilted and its whole body was full of flaws. Roy punched right to the goblin's heart. The fist rotates inward during the acceleration process to complete the second acceleration. Gah! The goblin screamed, suffered cardiac arrest and died on the spot. The third one. Picking up the small magic stone, Roy continued to dig deeper. But the monster seemed to disappear. Until he entered the second level, he did not encounter the fourth monster. Well, this is the weakest floor among the upper floors. Not only is the monster itself weak, but the refresh speed is also quite slow. Because the dungeon is a large maze, the refresh rate of monsters has a decisive impact on the degree of danger. For example, in a circular passage, the adventurers cleared the monsters at the door and went deep into it. Before they could clear the monsters inside, the monsters at the door were refreshed and joined the battle. This would lead to a situation where they would be outnumbered and outflanked. Obviously, this floor will not encounter that situation at all. It's not an online game that just launched. There are more people than monsters. It's really. Roy entered the second level. After exploring for nearly 10 minutes, we still didn't encounter any monsters. If this situation continues to the third floor, Roy is afraid that he will not be able to help but violate the agreement with his goddess. They had agreed not to go down to the third level. Click. The unusual movement on the wall immediately caught Roy's attention. He took a few steps back and instead of pulling out the blunted sword, he held the sword. Click click. Under Roy's surprised gaze, 4 lizard-like monsters crawled out of the walls of the dungeon. As soon as they climbed out of the wall, the cracked wall was repaired at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then they focused on Roy in front of them. 2 of them crawled along the wall to the ground to attack, while the other 2 crawled on the ceiling. Avoiding the saliva dripping from above with some disgust, Roy examined this monster. Dungeon lizard. The activity range is 2 to 4 floors. Is it actually that big? 1 meter 8, 1 meter 9. Maybe 2 meters long. Roy used Shunpo and came behind the 2 dungeon lizards in the blink of an eye. He cut a seemingly small but deep wound on the dungeon lizard's head and blood spurted out like arrows sprinkling on the ground. After taking care of the 2 on the ground, he raised his arm and extended his index finger to aim at the target on the ceiling. Broken down. No. 4 white. Just when he was about to attack with Baile, Roy felt a breeze blowing out from the depths of the dungeon and patting him gently on the back. This stopped him in his tracks. Now he has only reached 1/3 of the second level. It's not cost-effective to waste precious spiritual pressure and use Kido here just to kill 2 dungeon lizards. As for throwing the sword, if he is not killed, the sword is inserted into the ceiling or is taken away by the lizard, then he will lose blood. I'll let you go today. Roy sighed and turned around to go deeper. After 2 hours of exploration, he collected a total of 16 magic stones. The reason why he used magic stones to describe them was because the size of these things was simply not worthy of units like pieces or blocks. Cutting, punching, walking and ghost all got some training. Just go back like this. Roy looked at the deep passage and thought that this was not the same Orario as in the main storyline. Dark factions are rampant in Orario right now. Just like the murder guild in Sao, it is full of perverts and many murderers. The sun should be setting outside now, so just to be on the safe side, go back. Chapter 10 Tower of Babel. 10-212. Chapter 10 Tower of Babel. Come to the guild again. Roy waited in line for a while and exchanged the magic stone in his hand for money. Looking at the few coins in his hand, he sighed in a low voice. It doesn't matter whether it's a goblin's magic stone or a dungeon lizard's, they really don't have much value. A mere 1,800 French dollars. Putting the money in his pocket, Roy found his consultant and reported on his exploration process today. New adventurers still need the advice of advisors. Half an hour later, Roy arrived at the Tower of Babel and took the first elevator in this world. The stronghold of the Hephaestus Familia is here. In addition to its function as a canopy for the underground city, the Tower of Babel also makes full use of its internal space, just like a modern large shopping mall. The weapons shop of the Hephaestus Familia, the treatment home of the Dean Kate Familia, as well as restaurants, bathhouses, etc. are all located on the commercial floors. There are a total of 17 commercial floors in the Tower of Babel that are leased to the outside world, of which Hephaestus Weapon Shop exclusively occupies 4 floors. In addition to this is the residence of the gods and the balcony rented by the beauty goddess Freya specifically for peeping. Oh, I'm back, Hephaestus. Roy was a little surprised when he looked at the goddess, who seemed to be waiting for him. The next second she heard someone say, "Are you the newcomer?" A woman stepped out from behind Hephaestus. She is 1.7 meters tall, has violent feminine features and only wears a bra wrap. She has clear abdominal muscles and a healthy complexion. Black hair, red eyes, Far Eastern face. On her face there are eye bands in the opposite direction to Hephaestus. Roy immediately judged the identity of the person in front of him. Leader of the Hephaestus Familia. Tsubaki Kobrand. The first-level adventurer known as Cyclops has a level as high as LV5. Hello leader, I am Roy. Tsubaki was stunned for a moment, then said strangely, "The newcomer is really polite this time." Ha ha ha. Just call me Tsubaki, I don't like complicated things. Okay Tsubaki. Roy took advantage of the situation and changed the method of address. Oh hello. After saying hello, Tsubaki suddenly walked forward. Roy looked at Tsubaki, who was approaching step by step, almost touching her face, and he suddenly panicked. The distance is too close. She pointed at Roy's waist and asked, "Hey, can you let me take a look at your work?" Before Roy could react, Tsubaki was hit in the head by Hephaestus. Idiot. We've been waiting inside for a long time. Can you, the leader of the group, please stop causing trouble? After being taught a lesson, Tsubaki immediately became honest. But she still whispered to Roy to promise her to discuss the knife together later. Follow the 2 people into the stronghold. What Roy saw was a banquet with almost 100 people present. Could this be to welcome him? Hey boy, are you new here? Why are you so thin, but your muscles are very strong and your quality is good? A dwarf uncle patted his back, making Roy feel hot on his back. This uncle is probably level 3. Come for a drinka. Roy can no longer remember what happened next. He said hello to a lot of people, memorized a lot of names and drank a lot. And that dwarf uncle, it turns out he is only 20 years old. Vomit. Low quality alcohol is really not good for your stomach. Roy propped up his hand and sat up and quickly realized something was wrong. He turned to look. He saw his captain lying next to him, soundly asleep. And he slept very poorly. Wrong. That's not the point at all. Tsubaki, why did you sleep with him? I go. Roy jumped out of bed and stared at his palms in shock. He seemed to be careless just now. Hey, why did he feel so cold? Where are my clothes? He looked around and found foul-smelling clothes in the corner. Did I vomit so much? Anyway, you have to cover it up first. Roy took out the sheets and wrapped them around his lower body, then came to the window and looked outside. In a daze he thought he had returned to his previous life. Because looking out from this window, what you see is the bustling Orario. As a rare high-rise building in the city, you can really see the mountains and small mountains at a glance. At this time he was quite awake. As for the clothes, Ida just right, Lita try it on. Use your spiritual power to build a deadly armor. Roy took a deep breath and focused her consciousness on the small amount of spiritual pressure in her body. She imagined wrapping the spiritual pressure around her whole body while also imagining the shape. In just 1 minute he succeeded. The Black Death Tyrant costume appeared on him and the style was exactly as he imagined. Moreover, the Death Tyrant outfit also has the crest of the Hephaestus Familia printed on it. Chapter 11 Types of Zanpakutō. 11/212. Chapter 11 Types of Zanpakutō. Roy carefully checked the Death Tyrant costume on his body and found that even the details were correct, so he nodded with satisfaction. For the first time I did pretty well, he said proudly. Looking at the half-dwarf woman on the bed, she was still asleep and showed no signs of waking up. So Roy covered her with the quilt, went out and brought back 2 sets of clothes and placed them on the bedside before leaving. In the process he suddenly recalled some things from last night. Tsubaki seemed to be trying to see what he was going to do with the knife, so she pestered him and followed him to the room. Putting the chianda on his waist, Roy walked towards the workshop area. Say hello to everyone you meet along the way. Under the guidance of a senior he came to the blacksmithing workshop. Ding, ding. For a hungover person the sound of forging is a little too much. Roy, do you want to forge? Yes. Forging the kind of knife you have on your belt. That's right. Roy was a little confused and didn't know what the other party was thinking. In that case I have a request. Ask. Please tell me, I'll listen first. The materials used to forge your swords are on my account, but I want to visit the process of forging swords in the Far East. Roy suddenly realized. So this is the family members of the blacksmithing god Hephaestus gathered experts from all walks of life in the field of blacksmithing. They are like blacksmiths with extraordinary enthusiasm for blacksmithing. Being able to see exotic forging techniques is very attractive to them. For these people, just by looking at it once they can understand a lot and even copy the craftsmanship. But it doesn't matter to Roy. It's just a shallow hit. Without the soul blade Zanpakutō, skill Zanpakutō is no different from an ordinary katana. Not to mention the entire Orario, there are countless people in the Hephaestus Familia alone who can make such a knife. Agreeing to the senior's proposal, Roy got good materials from the other party and started forging steel on site. The workshop area is well equipped and has some good equipment. This is the first time Roy has seen it. After forging, the steel is stretched bit by bit and its shape is closer to the blade. The excess parts were cut or polished off by Roy. The blade gradually took shape and Roy began to cover the blade with soil by hand and then performed heat treatment. The quenched blade was carefully ground by Roy and soon polished to be as bright as a mirror. Roy prepared a white scabbard for this knife. There is no gorgeous decoration. It has a white scabbard and a white handle. Roy, amazing, really superb technology. Oh, thank you. If I want to give you any advice, it is to upgrade as soon as possible to gain development capabilities. It is very convenient. Forging skills will greatly increase your efficiency. Roy nodded and expressed his gratitude. Forging. Yes, even at level 1 a blacksmith can still work, but once you become a famous blacksmith there will be more commissions and efficiency will become very important at that time. But that's the case for average blacksmiths. As the creator of Zanpakutō in this world and the future sword god, Roy does not pursue quantity but focuses on quality. Every Zanpakutō is unique. Those who don't get his recognition don't deserve to have a Zanpakutō. Forging completed. Roy left the stronghold with 2 shallow guns. As a result, 1 more material is needed to make a Zanpakutō. Considering that he would be exploring the dungeon alone for the time being, he wanted to forge a Zanpakutō to improve his combat effectiveness and use it as a trump card. With his current spiritual pressure it would be difficult to maintain Shikai for a long time. Zanpakutō can be roughly divided into 2 categories: direct attack system and ghost path system. There is nothing much to explain about the former. In the Seraite, except for the 11th division, the majority of Shinigami hold Kido type Zanpakutō. The Kido type Zanpakutō also includes the heat type Ryujin Jaka Hyum Ice and snow type Haya Rinmaru Yuzu Shirayuki and other swords with elemental abilities, as well as special types with special effects such as Wabisuk, objects struck by the blade weigh twice as much and the wasp kills with 2 hits. Direct attack type Zanpakutō has a lower priority. Because just with the sharpness of the shallow attack the monsters on the upper level are no longer able to resist. The direct attack type Zanpakutō's attack power against a single target will be further increased, which will only make the output more overflowing. Then the conditions are clear. First is the ghost system, then the low consumption, and then the elemental system, which has containment power, medium and long attack range and excellent attack range. A Zanpakuto that can satisfy all of these. Roy quickly sifted through his mind. Suddenly he inexplicably recalled the wonderful softness he accidentally touched in the morning. As a result, I was immediately reminded of Rangaku Matsumoto, who is known as the highest in the Soul Society. Well, Ida, up to you. Gray Cat. Chapter 12 Gray Cat. 12/212. Chapter 12 Gray Cat. Gray Cat. Kido, the Qingfeng type Zanpakuto. Shiji's ability is to turn the blade into smoke and turn all the surrounding sand into its own combat power. It can be manipulated freely. Wherever the dust touches, it can perform the same cutting action by waving the handle of the knife. This sword has similarities with Ichimaru Jin's God-killing gun and Kuchiki Byakuya's Senbonzakura. And it can meet all Roy's conditions. The ability to manipulate dust. It has a wide range and is concealed. It can be used to detect enemies, or it can also form a smoke screen to hinder enemies. Wherever the dust goes, everything is within the attack range of the blade. After deciding on the Zanpakuto he initially wanted to build, Roy directly found Hephaestus. Are you going to use that skill to forge a sword? The goddess confirmed to Roy. She showed no surprise. Not only that, but he seems a little eager to give it a try. Yes, I'm ready. Okay, come with me. Hephaestus brought Roy to her private workshop. This is her exclusive workshop. You can try it here. Hephaestus generously lent him this place. Roy didn't shirk either. He knew that in order to repay this goddess he should do what she wanted and use forging to please her. Roy unbuttoned his upper body clothes and lowered them to his waist. The muscles on his body are evenly distributed without huge muscles like a swimmer's body type. The seemingly slender arms directly raised the sledgehammer with both hands. After trying it twice, set it aside for later use. Wait, you want to use that? Hephaestus was afraid that the knife would be broken. Roy nodded without opening his mouth to explain anything, but took out the shallow tea and put it into the furnace. The terrifying high temperature quickly burned the blade red. Under the continuous heating the blade quickly turned golden as if it was emitting some kind of brilliance. It's now. Roy picked up the sledgehammer. Ping, a, ping, a, ping, a. The heavy sound of forging echoed in the workshop, shaking the mind. Roy sank in. He hammers his soul into the blade every time he forges it. That terrifying courage even shocked Hephaestus. This was an area unknown to her. After tempering 49 times the next second under the shocked gaze of Hephaestus, Roy actually stretched out his hand and grasped the incandescent blade. She was too late to stop it. Not only was he unable to react, but he also had expectations. Boom. Spiritual power explodes. Substantial spiritual pressure enveloped Roy's whole body. Lasts several seconds. After that the storm dissipated and the knife in Roy's hand had completely changed its appearance. Hephaestus opened her eyes wide in surprise when she saw that the blade that was far from being completed now had equipment and a scabbard out of thin air. You actually integrated your soul into the knife. Even the goddess in heaven was extremely surprised at this time. She used her own soul as a material and forged it with the blade to forge a weapon with a soul. Such a knife is no longer just a weapon but half of the soul. As a divine craftsman in the heavens, Hephaestus also forged many intelligent weapons. Those without exception are true artifacts. She can do it because she is a god. But now a child from the lower world actually created a kind of knife in front of her that even she had never imagined. Zanpakuto. This is the soul blade that only Roy can create. Roy was sweating profusely and almost collapsed, but he still held on. Because he has not yet shown the true form of the Zanpakuto to the goddess. He looked at the flaming figure of the goddess with shining eyes and said with a smile, "The name of this sword is Gray Cat." Croon. As Roy read out his words of liberation, the Gray Cat's initial understanding appeared in front of Hephaestus. The dust gathered and turned into a hurricane. Thump. Roy, who was smiling brightly, fell to the ground, and the Gray Cat in his hand also fell to the ground. The initial release was lifted and it returned to the form of an ordinary sword. The forging goddess stayed where she was for a long time and then came to the boy's side. She sat on the ground with her legs sideways and gently moved the boy's head to her lap. After that he kept staring at the young man's sleeping face. The Zanpakuto, the incredible power, and you who can create it. You are simply poisonous to me. Hephaestus gently pushed aside Roy's hair, leaned down and left a soft kiss on his forehead. After an unknown period of time, Roy opened his eyes again. It's a familiar ceiling. He looked at the